Welcome to another OCD Recovery YouTube video. I thought I would come on here to do a video on being very, very rational, an important topic that I wanted to cover. Now, being rational doesn't mean the absence of all feelings and emotions and things like that. People often think, oh, if I become sort of stoic and rational, I'll lose me and I'll just be numb. That's not the case. I feel happiness, I feel sadness, I feel joy, I can feel anger if I want to, all these things, but you are able to balance those emotions. Not all the time. If someone smacked me in the face right now, I'd probably feel very angry and want to hit them. So I could then rationally view it and change my mind and think, well, look, they're being stupid, they've got their own beliefs, they're not educated in the sense that realizing that if they get into physical violence, they may hurt their brain. They've got one brain for the rest of their life, so it's probably not a wise choice. Therefore, I don't want to get into confrontation with a person who hasn't thought that through. I could be aware of that quite quickly and then realize there's no need to engage in that conflict that could put me at risk, right? Now, then the anger comes down when I look at that. Now, if I had no insight to that, smacked in the face, my beliefs are they must not hit me, like a universal law where we sort of believe the universe is encased in a belief system network, which is like almost like godlike, and we must abide by, and that if you break that, you will be damned forever, and it must be abided by. All humans are so irrational; they believe this stuff. You hit me in the face, you must not do that. That is the worst thing ever. Should not happen. That's so unfair. That's so terrible. I must hit you back to uphold my pride. Another thing we think is like a universal law. And then it will all be balanced out, right? All irrational. So we've got to start from the beginning point of why are humans so irrational? Well, most humans don't tend to think that deeply. They tend to follow the crowd and are scared of getting socially rejected, right? So because of that, it's easier to follow the crowd and avoid social rejection. So they'll follow things that sort of set out. Laws get set out, they abide by them very easily. They never think what those laws mean. They think very much in black and white of you're a good person if you do this, you're a bad person if you do that. Yet the laws today and the laws in the past are very different. And what people believed were good and bad are today very different to then. So those kind of black and white rigid constructs is what keeps us prisoners in our life. That means we abide by our laws because for our own life it's better for how we function in society. But it doesn't mean we have these beliefs that self-damn us, that down us if we break some belief, like we're dishonest or we make a mistake or we get angry at someone, or whatever thing you feel which you believe you'll be damned forever, or is just you could never accept yourself if you did. Humans are fallible, okay? So let's start with the dishonest, and let's use the category of ROCD because that's always a great example to demonstrate this. So with ROCD, one of the most common fears is, what if I cheat? Or if I think that I've cheated, then I should be, that's so terrible. Being dishonest is so terrible. I could never be at peace with myself again because I need to be a so-called good person at all times. And if I'm not, I should be anxious forever. Well, I'm going to be really brutally rational here because it's so important to often flip these beliefs on their head, because that's what you need to do when disputing irrational beliefs. And as we know, look, the results that we get with OCD, the reason we get the results we do is we get in there in depth, because we know well that sort of wishy-washy, light-hearted language when it comes to OCD fears, you can't change OCD with just thinking something, sort of like, just leave OCD there, just leave a thought there. That's a part of it, but that's not enough, right? OCD takes orders from beliefs, not thoughts. You can think, oh, I'm not that scared of it, but if you are, you really believe you are, you're going to feel the emotional response. So we've got to change those beliefs. So let's look at our OCD. So with cheating, right? Well, first of all, if you went back 600-700 years ago, they would, or 1,000 years ago, however far you want to go back, cheating was obviously a sort of a man-made concept that we invented, and we said you should not cheat because we like to have our partners staying with us because of the sort of bonding reasons, and because we believe that and it works for society as well, and we tend to like that. But if you actually broke it down rationally, there's pros and cons to it, of course, because humans do like to have sex with different partners. They obviously do, as do animals, and human nature is just like that. So, but we also like to bond deeply and have families and connect and be with a partner that we love and cherish. So all those things are there too. So there's pros and cons to both, right? It's not just one way. It's not like cheating. If you cheat, you're terrible and it's the worst thing ever. No, there are pros to humans having sexual relationships with others. But then we invented this concept of cheating to protect it. Now, when we invented that, we've obviously got to create fear around it so that people value it. So, because that's what we do with most things. So we tend to be quite irrational about that instead of sort of more rational. More rational would be, I would really like it that we stay faithful together, and we will really try to stay faithful because that would be really great. But if one of us didn't stay faithful, it's not the end of the world. We're not ruined through and through, destroyed. We can still live with ourselves, but we would really like to try and do this for our own bonding benefits. Okay? That would be the rational, but it isn't. In reality, it's, oh my God, they're a cheater. They're terrible. Oh my God, he's a cheater. Oh my God, she's a cheater. Oh my God. And then sort of ostracized, and we exaggerate it. Okay? But in reality, people cheat. Loads. And the world doesn't end. And they're not rotten through and through. They've made a choice and decision. They have decided to do something else. It's not ideal. It doesn't go in line with the bonding situation, but it's not the end of them and it's not the end of the world. That is rational fact, okay? But it can come as a shock when you've thought all your life, oh my God, that's so bad, because you've been conditioned to think that, right? So you're still proactively working towards having a bonding relationship. You are still proactively doing that, but you're not downing yourself if you cheated, if you decided to get with another person, okay? Why is this so important? People are chronically anxious over our OCD cheating their whole life. And so then you've got to exaggerate these beliefs more and say like, okay, so how do you feel if you cheated? What do you think it'd be like? Oh, it'd be the end of the world. But then they often don't say that. They often say this. They often say, no, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But they believe it would, but they say they don't believe it would, because these beliefs are so subtle. That's why I say working with OCD, it's very specific, the reason why people are stuck. You've got to look at the layers. Do they believe what they're saying? Do they believe that? Maybe they don't. That's why they're anxious. At the core, there's always an irrational reason. That's why the anxiety cycle's there. So then you look at it, they'll say, no, I can understand someone else cheating, just not me. Okay, so you believe that you should be punished forever with chronic anxiety and chronic guilt, but nobody else. And then they go, yeah, kind of. Now I'm saying, if you had a daughter or a son and they cheated, do you believe that they should be tortured for the rest of their life? Because it is kind of like a torture, chronic anxiety and chronic guilt. No, I wouldn't want that for them. But why do you deserve it? Oh, because I'm 100% responsible. Why? Why can you have compassion for them and not you? And that's the main bit we need to anchor straight into, to show them that they've got no compassion for themselves, but they have for others. Because when it comes to the responsibility element that OCD latches onto, it latches on to that responsibility of I must be responsible 100% of the time. And because I'm aware in my mind of what I do, I'm 100% responsible. So I know every mistake I make, right? And therefore I can't make any mistakes. But that doesn't factor into your genetic makeup or your environmental factors. Both are at play. And if we had the genetic factors and the environmental upbringing of a serial killer, we would be the serial killer. Genes, environment, there's not much more to it. And whether you believe in free will or not is another question. Now, if we look at a situation like that with our OCD, we can see the universal laws and how that gets people into trouble. They believe there's a universal law that they must be honest at all times and they must be good. We strive to be honest, we strive to do these things. That doesn't make us good. When you read chapter 4 of The Myth of Self-Esteem, which is a fantastic book by Albert Ellis, Psychotherapy and the Value of a Human, in chapter 4, he specifically goes into great detail why, by definition, there is no such thing as a good or bad person. The reason why is, by definition, if a human was a good, that would mean that they could only do good, and that every act that they ever did was good, and they could never do bad, and vice versa with bad. Now, the reason that's important is because understanding and embodying unconditional self-acceptance, one of the key concepts for recovery from anxiety, is learning to see that behaviours don't equate to the whole of the human worth. A human's value is based on being alive and human, just being alive on this rock floating through outer space as an organism living its life, and being just being there, being human being. It's in the name, but it's not on an action. If a human does a certain thing, that doesn't make it more or less valuable. If it runs 100 meters, that doesn't make it, and the fastest in the world, that doesn't make it a good human. That means it's a human that's legs move fast and is helpful for something that humans believe in, but that doesn't make it good. If he helps 50 old ladies across the road, that doesn't make him good, because does that mean all the other ones who didn't help an old lady across the road are bad? So that chapter goes into, and if someone's born bad, then surely they're so handicapped they should get loads of compassion because they were born bad. So it doesn't make any sense. And chapter 4 of the Psychotherapy of the Value of a Human breaks down all the reasons, really sort of going through in disputing format of why there's no such thing as good and bad humans, which is crucial for understanding and embodying unconditional self-acceptance. So you stop rating yourself all the time, which all humans do. And the more rational you come, the more distant you realise and more separate you realise from other humans. You still have connection with them and a lot more empathy. You're more connected and understanding of how they function. But you see how irrational they are. I mean, most humans are very irrational. Albert Ellis said, and this topic of this video today is sort of being brutally rational, so I will carry on that chord of saying, like, you know, Albert Ellis said that if aliens came down to Earth, they'd be blown away and sort of laughing all day long at how irrational humans are. And you can understand why, because you can just look at these kinds of things. If I do this thing, I'm terrible and I should die. If I do that, I'm amazing and I should be, everyone should love me. If I say this thing, then that counteracts a bad thing and then makes me at peace. Like with cheating OCD, people believe if I confess this thing, then I'm automatically now a good person and I can be at peace forever. But they've invented all those concepts. The only reason confession works is because they hold the belief concept that if they've done something bad and they answer it with a confession, then that sort of equation balances itself out and delivers a neutral result of peace. So therefore, what they think is if they do that, they will get a non-anxious response, which they get because they believe in that formula. Whereas in reality, that formula doesn't work. And then if OCD finds ways around it, just say, well, you cheated at everything. When you were having sex, you thought of someone, therefore you cheated, so then you should confess. And then they spend all their life confessing. So that doesn't work. It works in the short term, so people think, oh, I'll do that in the short term to get relief. They get relief, and they think that's always going to work in the long term. That's why reassurance, they become so convinced to it, and so sort of latch to it as a sort of antidote until OCD keeps moving the goalposts and it no longer works. So with being rational, it's key to really break these things down, these concepts, anything. Like because we speak to ourselves in this sort of like dictator-like voice, judge and executioner. If I did ... I should be damned forever, because that's what you're literally saying. You're saying you're going to have chronic guilt and chronic anxiety forever. That's like kind of torture. And so it's like, what? So you're saying if you think this or you do this, you should be tortured forever. That's how extreme our beliefs are. But we're not aware of that. We miss that. And so, you know, there's no good just sort of telling yourself with OCD, oh, just leave thoughts there, just leave feelings there, because if you really believe something, when it's really, really latched, not all the time, a lot of cases isn't the case, but if it is, then you need to get under it to this depth to release that cycle that's going on, because your body believes it, you've got two beliefs counteracting, and it's creating a chronic anxiety and chronic guilt that's a cycle that's going on and on and on in the background. It's sort of simmering away like living in a cortisol soup. So I'm going to be going into great detail all about this topic. I know today's video is about being very rational, and I think it needs to be broken out into like 2, 3, 4 videos, all going through being rational. So you can see more into that and understand that. And you can look at it in so many areas of your life, like someone screaming when a car cuts them up because they believe you must not do that, like a universal law, not knowing that person was like going to the hospital to visit their mum. So those kind of things is like how quickly our society gets into anger and ends up in prison from fighting, or gets so depressed they don't want to leave the house because someone said a thing to them that conflicted with their belief system of how they view themselves and made them believe it a bit, or whatever, right? It's all of these things that cause emotional disturbance, and we're going to be sort of really direct and rational to help deconstruct these, so that we can help people not disturb themselves, particularly here with OCD and anxiety. So I will be back on here in the next couple of days doing the next parts of this video. So I will see you guys then. If you want any help, please click the like button for these videos to help them get noticed, and follow this account. But if you want any help directly with this, we do one-to-one coaching and our webinars, and you can just email Phil, Phil, at ocdrecovery.com, who does all our bookings, and we will organize and schedule an introductory call for you. And so that's what we are doing in coaching and webinars, helping people to deconstruct their disturbance, learning to see why it's still going on, what's still fueling that cycle, because it is usually missed. Because if you've been chronically anxious or chronically guilty for a long time, you've been place to place, the reason that is because you haven't yet understood how to break that cycle. And so that's the key. That's the key to learning and embodying unconditional self-life and other acceptance, and learning to stop yourself from catastrophizing all the time that leads to this anxious response and self-downing with the guilt. Guys, great to see you all, and I will see you on the next YouTube video. Take it easy, guys. Bye.